A boo boo.
Hey, this is Time Bomb, and this is the first episode doing a review of a Star Wars property. We just watched through the whole series of Book of Boba Fett. Me and Spoon are going to do our thoughts on it. Spoon, thanks, buddy, for joining me.
Hey, thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Yeah, buddy. I had a few discussions with you earlier about it. What are you thinking about the series overall coming into the episode? What are your thoughts?
So going into this episode, I was really concerned about this series based on the last episode
Mm-hmm.
with Luke and how kind of the last two episodes have kind of shifted the focus away from Boba Fett, because I really enjoyed the first half of this series with a nice deeper look at the character of Boba Fett and like actually adding stuff there that really we hadn't really seen with the character before. So when they started bringing in Mando and Luke and that kind of storyline coming in, I got a little worried because it took up two episodes. I mean, we
Mm-hmm.
went and like two episodes almost without seeing Boba,
Mm-hmm.
or we saw him halfway through the episode 6, but he didn't have a line.
No, he's
So
it,
so I was a little concerned. But when we got into this episode, that was my main thing. Is like I want to go back to the story that was established at the beginning of the season
mhm.
and finishing off here.
So I have a couple thoughts about that. So I agree. The earlier part of the season, although well, I half agree. The earlier part of the season, I did enjoy the Boba story with the Tusken Raiders specifically. I really enjoyed that backstory. I thought splitting up the story into a non-linear way, I think made it less enjoyable. I mean, the way that season went though, I enjoyed the Tatooine modern story a lot less. The gangster element, it came across a little bit hokey, whereas the Tuscan story had this like cool Western kind of vibe to it that I it felt, much more in line, I guess, with the Mandalorian vibe that I kind of like. Maybe that was it, and that Tatooine. Whereas when you get into the Vespas, it kind of lost me a little bit with some of the stylistic decisions. And when it came to that episode 5 where they totally switch gears, I just looking at it as the fact that it's a 7 episode season, I kind of think that episode was just wedged in there to get some excitement back. They weren't getting the viral draw that they needed, and they wanted to add some punch to the season. I really think that could have just been a Mandalorian episode that they moved up, because if you think about it, that whole fight scene could have been about anything. Like, it didn't. They add in all the lines. They're wearing masks. You know what I mean? Like, it's interesting that the way they gave it the context that it did, and I think that's something that was maybe added in there. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely. Well, I think about these shows. Like, I imagine that they have to be so planned out so far advanced.
Mm-hmm.
I imagine that. Cause, I mean, if we're talking spoilers for the new episode, I like just getting a little ahead of myself here.
Mm-hmm.
I see now how those two episodes tied into this
Mm-hmm.
finale.
Yes.
So, like, a lot of my grievances have been pushed aside. I still think, yes, having two episodes dedicated to just. I mean, everyone made the joke when the first Mando episode came out, and it was like, haha, Mando season 2.5. And then it happened again in the next episode.
Yeah.
But going back to what you were saying about the first half of the season,
Mm-hmm.
I really thought like it was a good focus for Boba Fett and seeing like how he grew as a character. I mean, you see like him falling into that Sarlacc is both like the best thing that's ever happened to him in a way. I mean, it literally changes who he is as a person.
Mm-hmm.
He goes from that cold, ruthless bounty hunter, quiet type for that we know from Empire and Return of the Jedi and other media, but it gives him a little bit of a more character here because he realizes I'm working for an organization that does, or like I'm working in a profession that I get used and thrown around. That like I'm fighting for Jabba the Hutt for what reason that I just got thrown into a Sarlacc pit, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So he's kind of like standing up for like all the other bounty hunters and stuff like that, and saying, like, there's a way we can run this crime organization through like respect and do things the right way. So seeing that like translate, because I mean he goes through what he goes through with the Tuscans, and he learns like how to work as a group and like a family and such, and it evolves. Like he brings that to the present day stuff. It's not like he learns the lesson and adds it to the modern setting, and I think that's kind of where it brings in, like, he's setting up his own crime family kind of thing.
Yeah, that is. He's kind of,
Organization.
you see him kind of building it over the season too, and I agree because that was people's complaint in a lot of ways, was that Boba was so different on Mandalorian, and as we see him in the present day, then people knew him as this like dangerous bounty hunter, and they kind of lost the edge. But I think you're right. I think the more I think about it, it did kind of explain and bring him to this place in a way that I enjoyed. It was just, I guess, it was just a little jarring at times when I saw the modern Tatooine story go with the Tuscans, but I did enjoy it. I did enjoy the season still, but it definitely helped to have that Mandalorian episode for me personally to jumpstart me back into it. And I totally see your complaint though about it getting away from Boba too much. You must have been like, "What's going on here?" We're getting pretty far off base, but it's to their credit, you can't just rush that Luke scene that they did, because he looked so much better in these episodes than we saw in other ones. I thought anyway, like the CGI or whatever they're doing, whatever magic they're making to bring him to life there is much better looking now. What were your thoughts there?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, going into the new episode, I mean, it makes sense now, beat for beat, why that stuff was there. It was very jarring why that was disconnected, because my biggest complaint with anything Star Wars in the modern era, and that's where I differ from a lot of the fan bases, I don't like character story and development being overshadowed by fan service.
Mm,
Like, so seeing my first impressions of everything with like Luke and Ahsoka being in the episode, I'm like, okay, this just seems like Dave Filoni shoving in his Clone Wars characters
mm,
and like shoving in like just anything to appease the fans and make them go like, ooh, I know that thing. That's not what I watch Star Wars for. I watch Star Wars for like the good character developments, the thematic storytelling and such. So when I saw that getting kind of pushed out of the way from what I was going with experiencing with Boba, I was a little upset. But now I kind of see in this latest episode how those elements, like, you needed to see Luke training Grogu a little bit to have the moments that we have in this finale.
it's kind of interesting because of the different generations that I am versus you. My idea about the Jedi and my sort of adoration for them has been shattered slowly over 30 years. Whereas, so my first idea of a Jedi is like this, Ben Kenobi, so honorable, Luke picking up the mantle. Luke is doing the Jedi right, and then it's sort of shattered by the prequels, seeing the Jedi's not be as good as you think, and then I didn't really watch the Clone Wars, so I'm sort of catching up with Filoni's sort of gray view of the Jedi, whereas this point, seeing it, to me, was really jarring to see Luke give this ultimatum to Grogu, because I honestly, my thought was like, yo, fuck a Jedi. I was like, fuck the Jedis, fuck your religion. Your weapons are my religion, if anything. Here, like, get it down. I was not into it, so it was funny to me how different it is. How do you feel about that moment compared to me?
So I mean, it's no secret to anyone I talk about where I love the portrayal of Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
Um, my view of the Jedi is always like they are never, yeah, the gray view of like they're not always good. They don't do everything right. They're not perfect, and that's something that's really established in the prequels. They're arrogant. They're like, they overreact like to things, or they don't act appropriately. So seeing like Luke in this series giving that ultimatum to Grogu, and even throughout the episode, I was like, Luke is acting really mean for no reason to Grogu. And I think like you got to get himself into his mindset of the character of Luke Skywalker at this point. He just fought the whole like galactic civil war and stuff like that. He's riding on his high horse of the legend status that the galaxy has put in on him. I mean, like everyone here in the galaxy is hearing stories of like Luke Skywalker, the Jedi who saved like or like killed the Emperor and defeated Darth Vader and such and such. Um, so he's kind of giving into that emotion or that high horse, like he's doing everything right. He's going to go through gung ho, restore the Jedi, make everything perfect, all hunky dory again. Before the prequels, he's not realizing that the folly and the failures of the Jedi, which isn't going to really strike him until the moment where he makes the mistake with his nephew Ben Solo. in a couple of years after this point in the timeline.
Well, I can definitely, I can see it leading up to that disappointment from this moment. You can definitely see the echoes, the hints of that, because I was so, I feel like that really shattered the Jedi for me, or it made me realize how much the Jedi has just been a myth that has fallen off. It's very interesting to me because that idea of like Han being like Jedis, I don't know, I've seen a lot of stuff, I never seen anything, but like the galaxy is huge and Luke's like kind of the last one except for Vader at that point, right? Like they've hunted them down. The idea is like they have so much control, and I guess now that seems to make a lot more sense than it did when I was younger, and so I really questioned it. So coming into this episode, I was very concerned for what was going to happen. But like they always do in this series, Mandalorian and Book of Boba, they give you the answer almost immediately of the next episode. It just Grogu just shows up there. What were your thoughts as this episode kicked off that way?
Yeah. When I saw the X-wing flying in, and this was the very beginning of the episode, so obviously my worries from the beginning. And as soon as I saw that X-wing, I rolled my eyes and I played out of my head. Okay, CGI Luke is going to hop out of this X-wing with the lightsaber. He's going to go through the streets of Tatooine, deflecting blaster bolts, and I'm just going to be like rolling my eyes the whole time. Like, this is not what I wanted. I was super relieved when I realized it's just R2 delivering Grogu. Like, here's your kid, dropping him off. I was very happy that that's how they played it out.
Yeah, so I mean, I actually love I'm spacing Amy Sedaris too. She's so great.
Peli.
Yeah,
Peli.
So I love that character too. I don't know how you feel about her, but yeah,
she's great. I love her with all my heart.
All right, she's one of my favorite characters. So to see her, I'll get a lot of screen time too. And this one was awesome. I'm trying to think what the next thing that I wanted to talk about in this one. Yeah, the Crime Syndicate. I liked the whole spice trader storyline this scene. It's kind of a meme about the spice, but it was cool to see it kind of in a practical sense of how a crime syndicate would kind of function with it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like we've heard spice thrown around so many times in Star Wars. I mean, it's literally in A New Hope will be thrown to the spice mines at Kessel. So it's like, it's just even seeing a relevancy, like when they brought it up in Rise of Skywalker, that Poe Dameron used to be a spice runner before he joined the Resistance. It kind of gained this larger like presence in the franchise. So it was nice to see that kind of explored with with Solo: A Star Wars Story, we got a further look into the crime world of Star Wars. So seeing that kind of expanded on more here was definitely a nice little touch to see.
And another character that had been brought up in the last two episodes who I was unfamiliar with was Cad Bane. What was your thoughts on seeing him brought into it and how he was executed in Book of Boba?
So, executed. But my mindset between last week watching the episode and now is completely kind of changed. But seeing him last week, again, I'm someone who was not a big fan of the Clone Wars TV show. It was just not my cup of tea. That probably stems a little bit from my dislike of the prequel trilogy. So kind of like a little internal bias about it. But I also just didn't enjoy the storytelling, storytelling style, but that's a story for another time. Cad Bane was just a character. I didn't grow up with the show. Like, it was something I watched a little later. I mean, I was still young when I watched it, but I wasn't like watching every episode every Saturday morning and stuff like that. So I didn't really ever develop that connection to Cad Bane that a lot of other people did. So I was like, I was more interested or excited by his appearance in the fact that it was the same thing where it's like an animated character coming to live action kind of thing. I did kind of roll my eyes because it's for the reason I mentioned earlier. It's a Dave Filoni episode. I believe the next one was the Dave Filoni, but it still feels like it was.
Yeah, no, I think it was. It was episode 6. Yes, he was brought up. I'm pretty sure. Yes. Might have been both. I can't remember now.
So it kind of felt like at the time it felt like, oh, Filoni is just shoving in his original characters, and as he has done with almost every episode of live action he's directed so far. But again, this episode kind of brought me back to realize in that, I mean, no spoilers for the show, but Cad Bane and Boba Fett do have a relationship, so it kind of makes sense that he's the one they brought in.
Mm-hmm.
I had so many people online and like that I talked to were like, "Oh man, are they going to bring in this bounty hunter? This bounty hunter? Are they going to see Bosk show up at some point?" And I was like, I don't want to just see characters just to see them again. I want them to have a purpose. So now, seeing or recognizing that Cad Bane and Boba have that personal connection, it made sense for him to show up here.
Oh yeah, that made that moment at the end of the episode when they were facing off even better. That was pretty cool to see. How to see Cad Bane actually was really dope because he was just so, I mean, to the Rancor he was fine, he just stood his ground. To Boba he just stood his ground. He's just better than everyone. So that was incredible to see. The whole problem I have is I agree they didn't need to bring in characters just to bring in characters, but then they had the mod squad, like all the mod kids with their bikes and their Vespas. That's the one group I kind of roll my eyes at because like even the guy who's got the little like eye thing, there was a point where he's walking with Chrysanthemum. I can't say his name. Chrysanthemum. He's walking with him, and he's gonna shoot at someone. And rather than just shoot at him, he does like this little like spin move he's just doing stuff like that all the time.
We had a little laugh in my group when we were watching that.
Yeah. There was also like a thing where he like saw them going up on the roof, but he used his little eye thing to zoom in them. I'm like, I'm pretty sure you could see it was them on the roof. Like, what did you need to zoom in? And I was like,
I think it was just they were like this little unnecessary. We made a joke with my group how Boba was creating a literal crime family. So you had him and Fennec as the mom and dad.
Yeah.
We made a joke like Chrysanthemum was like the weird uncle, and then the mod squad was like the kids or whatever. Because there was even a moment where like Fennec was like a mom to one of them in the finale here. She's like, "Oh, you got manners, nice."
Yes, of course. I was like, are they setting up a love thing? I mean, that was sure. I was like, what's going on with that moment? That was really weird there. I see it more of like the Addams Family now that you mention it. I'm like, this is it's like he's Uncle Fester. Like he's like Gomez there,
But that's kind of the vibe I was getting out of them. I think people looked a little too hard into them. I mean, I can defend them all day and say like, oh well, I can talk 100 times about like how I didn't wasn't upset with the speeder chase and like how they look and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I just ultimately think like they serve like Boba like reaching out into the community and stuff like that. Like, I mean, they were like they were a group that was getting oppressed by the guy who owned all the water in Mos Eisley and stuff like that. I mean, like they were looking for work and stuff like that. So I mean,
it made sense. I mean,
it
same
was kind of just Boba giving back.
Yeah, same with the Cobb Vance like crew. He kind of like how they kind of like came back. It was like another version of that. It was cool how they could call everybody to come out. Kind of just like sort of like how Mando kind of had his team come together, but they needed more. I really liked the Twi'lek character too. He did bother me, but he's got like a funny C-3PO vibe almost. He's like a new. he's got a good vibe. I like the style. I can see how people might be annoyed by him, but I like it. That style of humor is very Star Wars to me.
I was waiting this whole series since episode 1. I was waiting for someone to just shoot him. I really thought it was going to happen this episode. Twice. It was once when he was talking to Boba and Mando, like trying to talk them out of like going out gun blazing. I really thought Boba gave him the pad and he was just going to shoot him in the back or something. And then the moment where he's talking to the Pike leader, and I really got some funny like. Last Jedi, Poe Dameron, your mom joke kind of vibe, like out of it. It was really funny to me.
I couldn't believe he lived through that. I honestly, same thing. I 100% thought they were gonna leave. I couldn't believe they saved him as well. They like ran out to get him. I was like, what?
I was so expecting him to die right there, and then the Pike leader got shot, and I'm like, oh man,
yeah,
damn it.
Yeah, that was pretty. Yeah, I like that. And then that standoff with the Arachnobot. I can't remember what the name of those. What were the name of those bots?
I have no idea what they were called. I was trying to work out.
They said it once. They said it at one point. They did say the name, but I just didn't. Yeah, I don't know. I'll never catch it. Well,
my group when we were watching, as soon as they activated the shield, someone yelled out "Droidicas 2." through it because dude.
I was wondering,
Um,
just because my knowledge from Squadrons, I was like, oh, ion shields. Oh man, they got anything ion? What are they gonna do? Like I was like, I was like, the shields, they need ions to be the shields. Was my thought. Like I don't know how it actually works in practice there because they did try their different weapons. I remember you made a comment about it.
I remember the way I saw them. I think of Battlefront 2015, the way they had like the personal bubble shield and that, where people could walk through it, but you just couldn't shoot it.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was going to work like that, but no, like you couldn't even walk through those things. I mean, they do it even in Phantom Menace with the shield and the droid attack.
Oh yeah, that's the Boba sent
Um,
the big rocket at it and exploded. And they're like, "What's it gonna
uh,
be?" And they came back out, and the shields. I was like, "Oh, they must be running scramblers because that is a really fast regen after that, right?" Like I was like,
shield skipping.
"Yeah, they're skipping for sure. This is OP." I wanted to get that. Yeah, it was really cool to see that though too. Like not even the dark saber could penetrate it or anything, right? Like there was just no way. You could just walk through it.
Yeah, it was definitely really interesting to see that. But I also really loved the fight with that. I loved everything with. Oh my gosh, Din or the Mandalorian took such a beating this episode.
Yeah.
There was so much. I'm like, how is he getting back up? Because he was fighting those things, and
Yeah, that was
but again,
that's a great fight,
like,
actually. The whole set, all the set pieces in this episode, I thought were great. This was, I mean, I haven't said it, but I really did enjoy this finale a lot.
me too.
Yeah.
Me too. I had a blast. I had a smile on my face the entire time. I
Mhm.
mean, there was moments shouting out as soon as the Rancor was brought out.
Oh my god.
My mind jumped to I don't know if you've ever heard of it or played with it, but Connect Star Wars.
I haven't.
There was a mode in that where like so like the Connect for Xbox where you can move your body and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
There was a game mode where you could play as a Rancor and go through Mos Eisley tearing up towns and stuff like that, and
That
I
is
immediately mentally jumped back to that. I was like, Connect Star Wars is canon.
They do get inspiration, like they say the Great Dragon and all that. Well, I guess maybe it was that scene too in A New Hope that may have inspired. But those kind of things, they do get inspiration from the games and from those kind of things. I wouldn't be surprised if something like that came from it. That is, when I saw it though too, my mind was blown. I thought they did a good job of setting it up earlier in the season too, because I was not thinking of that. I didn't know where Boba was going. I'm trying to think. I thought I had some thought about who he would be getting. It wasn't that though. But I thought he was going to go to to another tribe of Tuskens or something like that and bring them out. That's who I thought was going to come. So I thought it was amazing. I did see a toy, like a Mando riding toy, in my eyes right then too. Though I was like, oh my god, who wouldn't want that?
I saw so much, like especially like a Lego set potential out of this episode. I could
Oh
totally
my
see that
goodness, definitely. I'm surprised. I mean, I think we'll see that tomorrow launched. If there's if there's people on the creator's site right now making it, 100%, it's just doing it. Like, yeah, just planning it out. Got to get it right, not first. Got to get it right, not fast. Okay. But yeah, the whole scene, the whole set piece, and how that it went through, it was exciting, back and forth. I was really bummed actually earlier when I thought it was dumb for them to spread out all the teams like basically alone though across the town. I'm like, we've got 10 people, let's split them up or whatever. I was a little bummed by that. So when the pig guys went down, that was kind of sad to me.
That was so sad. The cinematography on that when they fell, I was like heartbroken. I'm like, these are Gamorrean guards. I never would have thought in 1,000 years I was crying over a death of the pigmen from Return of the Jedi.
But it was those specific Gamorrean guards that made it so hard.
Like, oh man, there was that's good storytelling comes out of when I don't think any character was safe. The only character I could say was safe was the Mandalorian, because obviously they're not going to get rid of the Mandalorian. But like any of the other characters, I was like, I don't know if anyone's gonna die in this. Because like Chrysanthemum was taking some shots there, and I'm like, are they gonna kill off Chrysanthemum here?
I was confused how he could take so many shots. I mean, also there's kind of like, you a bath about soaking about the tank, and then like he's running like a bit later. I was like, I guess he's not that hurt, but then he was also hurt again. It was a little back and forth.
He's taken quite a beating in the comics. I'll say that.
Yeah, okay.
So I wasn't really overly concerned, even though he kept taking shots. I was like, are they gonna do it? Are they gonna do it? But like, oh my gosh, like moments of seeing like Din and Boba back to back fire, like holding off the entrance to that building. I was like, this is amazing.
Yeah, that part was really great. I'm trying to think of the standoff between what's his name? I'm spacing on Cad and Boba there. When he does the little move to bring out a stick, was that directly what he was taught by the one guy? I guess, I mean, it was definitely the trick, but I was just trying to think of how it went. I'm just kind of looking at it right now. The way he countered it, was that something he experienced there? I mean, that could be a really good callback if it was. Maybe it was just generally because he had the stick still, he used it. It's just what they taught him.
It could be. I wouldn't be surprised if it was. I would have to go back and
I'd have to rewatch it. It was such a cool moment.
Yeah,
no, I don't think it's an exact callback or anything because he just has the guns and then it's just showing that he learned. It's like, yeah, you may be quick with the guns, and I might not be as quick with the guns, but I'm quicker with this thing now. I guess because of them. Yeah.
Again, it's that good dynamic between the two characters. Again, like I really thought. I mean, there was moments where I thought Boba was actually going to die in this whole episode, but I don't know, because it would mean there wouldn't be a season 2, and I actually, the way they leave this open, I don't even know if there's gonna be a season 2 to this, or they're gonna continue with something else.
Yeah, I think they just the way that I felt from how they left it is they did two things well at the end of this. They established a good jumping off point for season 3 of Mandalorian with which totally, in a certain ways, it kind of takes away from the ending of season 2 because they're just like, we just did all this just to be like, you know what, Mando Grogu, that's all, that's what you guys want. And I'm like, okay, good, but it's just kind of funny how they just undid that, where you were like left and wondering for season 3.
it is going to be weird, like years from now, when someone's just getting into Star Wars and they have to watch all these shows to catch up. You gotta make sure they realize you have to watch Mando season 1 and 2, and then Book of Boba Fett, then Mando season 3. to
so
jump in
weird.
And understand the story.
There's no way they intend. How did they? I don't get that. I guess, I mean, it's very odd to me because this is basically you have to watch this as season 3 of 2.5 of Mandalorian. It doesn't make sense to watch it any other way. You're right.
And I was thinking of like that's. Because obviously they're trying to start some sort of interconnected universe with these TV shows coming up, or at least the ones related directly to the Mandalorian. And I can't help but draw the comparison to like the Marvel shows on Netflix and stuff like that, where they had every character had their individual season, and then they would have like a crossover every now and then. And I really thought that was kind of the style they're going with here. But it's just directly in Boba's, like it is part of the overarching story of this TV show universe kind of thing they're setting up.
Definitely. I mean, a big part of this ending is that Grogu and Mando are back together now, and that Mando has a new ship, and they're gonna just fly around, and Grogu has rejected me. Like, I feel like all these big questions that were left at the end of the last season have now been answered in this show, and it told us a lot about Boba and you're like, to your point too, how you're saying it doesn't need a second season. Boba could now just be a character in whatever media, or people could go there and Boba would, if they go to Tatooine, Boba would pop up. So it does kind of, finish that story. It doesn't need a next season, but they could do another season too, or however it needs.
That's the whole thing with them leaving it. So, I mean, there is the after credit scene of Cobb Vanth and the Bacta tank. I have no idea what that's setting up. I mean, you compare this finale to Mando season 2 finale, where they had the whole setup for this show with Boba walking into the palace shooting Bib Fortuna, and then it says Book of Boba Fett coming December 2022, or I mean 2021, and you're like, okay, I know exactly what's coming next in the storyline. I have no idea what's coming next, other than Mando season 3 is coming at one point, but I have no idea like what they're gonna do.
I think the Kenobi one is gonna come out before then. Not that release date may not be out yet. I would have thought.
But I know between now and between now and December, when Mando season 3 is supposed to come out, it's the Kenobi show, Andor, the Cassian Andor show, and then I think another season of Bad Batch.
Oh wow, at least it's a lot tighter this year than with releases before Mando than it was the year before.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I don't have any thought that Kenobi and Andor is going to tie into the whole Mandalorian line, like you need to watch those shows to keep up.
Yeah.
Because I know Kenobi is its own. I think it's its own self story, just a couple episodes, and they're not even going to think of a season 2 with it.
No, that which is
Um,
yeah, no, it doesn't need that. I don't think.
Andor, I think, has been confirmed already for a season 2. I could
It
be
was.
wrong.
It was. Yeah, I read
Yeah.
that article for sure, which was interesting.
So we know how that ends for that character, so I don't expect that showing up in Mandalorian either. So.
Yeah, no, they're just fleshing that one out basically. I guess they could introduce characters there that could end up in it. I guess that's possible for that reason. But one other aspect too is because I love the X-wing characters too that they have in there. I forget his name now. The captain.
I know. Yeah, this suit.
He's a Canadian actor, Paul. Yeah, Paul. Yeah. So I mean, I just love seeing him pop up for that reason, and because I'm Canadian, and I just I know him from like Kim's Convenience and different stuff. So it's cool to see him there, and I know he's like such a fan of Star Wars stuff too. So it's kind of cool. It's cool to see that character pop up, but I know they might be considering doing something like an a spin-off, like the movie is still in development, so I'm wondering if they're thinking about trying to use these characters in a Rogue Squadron film in some way or something, or his younger self, and they're trying to establish him. I always wonder about that.
My original prediction was, because when we go back to, I can't remember, I think it was D23, I think that was the event a couple of years ago where they announced, or not a couple of years, like a year or two ago, where they announced all of the Star Wars shows and stuff coming out forward. One of them was called Rangers of the New Republic.
Yes,
which
that
was
was
supposed
it.
to be part of the Mandalorian Boba Fett line, but we haven't heard anything else about that show, and I'm pretty sure that it was linked to Gina Carano, Cara Dune's character.
So that was probably, I think they did.
I'm pretty sure he was supposed to be a part of that because if you remember at the end of season 2, it was season 1 or season 2 of Mando.
Yes,
the two of those characters interact, and he gives her a badge.
That's right. Yeah, he's like, yeah, we could use. That's right. Yep.
So I thought that was what that show was going to be, and so now that Gina Carano is rightfully, in my opinion, not involved with the franchise anymore, they're probably trying to retool that show into his. Is my prediction.
That would be great to see because I mean, just what I know about him, he seems like just a cool guy. So it would be really awesome to see him get to do some more stuff in the Star Wars universe because he's so excited about it. What are your final thoughts about, I guess, this episode to wrap it up?
So I mean, this episode
or the series, this episode in the series, all overall,
the series as a whole. I mean, like again, it was everything I wanted for the character of Boba Fett. Like it had me rocky and worried, which compared to like Mandalorian first 2 seasons, I was never really concerned about the quality of the show, other than maybe one episode, which I think was season 5 of episode, or I'm saying the wrong words. Episode 5 of season 1, I think, was the one where they were on Tatooine. That was the only episode I was like, about. But consistently, Mando, I think, was a better that wise. But this show definitely, what we got, I enjoyed a lot more. Almost like the highs of this show were higher than anything I thought out of Mando.
Yeah, they took more chances than I was expecting to that didn't pay off, but a lot of things were amazing and really did. And the season as a whole did work out. So it was really cool to go over it with you, Spoon. Thanks for giving me your insights in this. And we'll have to do some other Star Wars stuff. Maybe Kenobi will do like right as it comes out each episode or something.
I would be more than happy to. And thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, buddy. All right. Thanks everybody for checking out, and we'll catch you later.
A boom,